Hi, my name is Warwick Tarboton. I live outside Modimolle, and for the past few years my wife Michele and I have been atlasing the birds and all the other biodiversity of the Waterberg as part of BirdLife South Africa's important biodiversity area program. I'm going to talk here specifically about the birds of the Waterberg. Well, if one looks at the Waterberg as a whole, taking the entire area from Lefalali down to Bella Bella, and taking all the records that have been accumulated over the years, the bird list for the Waterberg is pretty impressive. It's currently standing at 449 species, which is well over half the South African species total. And little by little it grows each year as new ones are being added. For example, in the last year there were 2 new additions. One was a broad-billed roller that was recorded in Velgevonden, and another one was an orange-winged partelia, which was photographed at Hermanusdorp. Both of these are vagrants to the area, and they could pitch up anywhere, and there's no resident population of them in the Waterberg, and so there's no place you could go and predictably see one tomorrow. Well, nearly 100 of the species on that list are vagrants of this kind. Some of them are pretty extraordinary. For example, a red-tailed tropic bird, which is a bird of the open oceans, and if you're on a boat outside Seychelles, you'd be more likely to see one than here. Well, one of them pitched up alongside a swimming pool on a game farm at Rankin's Pass in January 2012 and was fortunately photographed. Another equally unexpected one was a spotted creeper, a bird of the tropical African Mayombo woodlands, and this bird, which was picked up and photographed by a ranger in Mabula in September 2013, it was the first and the only record of this species ever for South Africa. So both of these birds were fortunately photographed, otherwise no one would have believed the records. And these photographs, by the way, and all the other photographs of the biodiversity of the Waterberg are available. We can see them on the website that we've created specifically to record the Waterberg's birds and biodiversity. And the address for the site, if you're interested, is waterberg-bioquest.co.za. So if you left these vagrants, these 100 or so vagrants off the list, it gets reduced to about 350 species. And these are all birds that you could probably see on a summer's day if you were able to visit all the different habitats in the region. Now in winter, of course, you can knock off another 80 species because all the migrants have gone back to Europe or gone back to tropical Africa. And that brings the potential bird list for the Waterberg down to about 270 species. I mentioned habitat because it's all about habitats. You find that many birds are restricted to one or other specific habitat, and if you don't visit that habitat, you don't record that bird. For example, and this is the obvious one, there's a suite of birds that are confined to aquatic habitats, the so-called water birds. But within that group of birds, there's some that are confined to fast-flowing rivers, like the half-collared kingfisher, others that like still open water, like many of the ducks, and yet others that like marshy vegetated areas. So this habitat diversity is reflected not only in water birds but in woodland species. Most of the Waterberg is covered by woodland, but there are different kinds of woodland. The broadleafed woodlands, for example, have a whole suite of species. The acacia woodlands, you get species in that which don't occur in the other woodland. And there are a few remaining remnants of evergreen forest in some of the deep kloofs. And in these forest patches, you get yet another group of species occurring. Then on the high-lying ground at the top of Michele National Park at around 2,000 meters, you get a group of birds that occur there and nowhere else in the Waterberg. And the many kranzes that fringe the Waterberg Plateau have krantz-loving species like Verreaux's eagle, Cape vulture, peregrine and lanner falcons. And lastly, there's the grasslands, and mostly grasslands have been created through removal of woodland for agriculture. But these grasslands have got yet another suite of birds that occur in them and nowhere else. So there's no single property in the Waterberg that covers all these habitats. So there's no single property where you're likely to see all of these 350 species in summer, not even in the largest reserves. Velgevonden, for example, the bird list, which has been built up over many years, has 307 species, and Lapalala has 262. And as you'd expect, the smaller the property, the fewer the species you're likely to encounter. Swebi Nature Reserve, as one example, has a bird list of about 220 species, as has Maleta Dikwa Wildlife Sanctuary. But among these smaller properties, there are some remarkable hotspots. Danyola Nature Reserve, for example, which is about 6,000 hectares in extent, has a list of 308 species, more than the list for Velgevonden. And this is because it straddles the floodplain of the Tambuti River, which brings in a large array of waterbergs. Another such hotspot is Danako Game Reserve, which has got a similar mix of habitats with wetlands and kranzes and so on, and their bird list is standing at 304. So bird diversity is all about habitats, and the more diverse the landscape, the more species one can expect. So how many birds do you think you can see in a day in the Waterberg? Well, BirdLife South Africa organised an annual national event which is called Birding Big Day, and it involves thousands of birders across the country. It's held in November, usually on the last Saturday of the month, and it's set out that teams of birders go out into designated areas to see how many birds they can see in the 24-hour period from midnight to midnight. The teams are confined to an area of 50-kilometre radius around a fixed point, and we've entered a team Waterberg for the last 2 years, and our fixed point has been Valwater, and we've encouraged as many people as possible to participate in these two events that we've participated in. In 2018, 77 people participated, and we got a list of 291 species. We came in number 6 in South Africa, and last year we had 50 people participating, and we got 270 species last year. So it shows the benefits of this sort of collective effort of birding and being able to cover multiple habitats. Well, to conclude, let's look briefly at what are the Waterberg's commonest birds and what are its special birds. The commonest birds are easy because you can just go to the database of all the atlasing records and see which are the top ones. And the top 10 on the atlas show that number 1 bird is the fork-tailed drongo. Number 2 is dark-capped bulbul. Then there's the black-backed puffback, the chin-spot batis, the white-browed scrub robin, a skulking little bird that you wouldn't pick up unless you knew its sweet song, because you don't see them very easily, the Cape glossy starling, white-bellied sunbird, black-headed oriole, and the last 2 are doves, the Cape turtle and laughing dove. And the runner-ups in the commonest birds are the yellow-fronted canary, the black-collared barbet, and the arrow-marked babbler. Now, the choice of specials really depends on who's choosing them, because we all have different favourites, but my choice for the Waterberg would be the following: white-backed night heron, finfoot, half-collared kingfisher, mountain wagtail, freckled nightjar, and I mention this because the Waterberg is the South African stronghold for this species, striped pipit, lazy cisticola, Gurney's sugarbird, Vero's eagle, and African cuckoo hawk. And 2 runner-ups I'd choose would be Denham's bustard and grey-headed kingfisher. You'd need a lot of patience, and you'd need to spend a lot of time in each of the different habitats to pick all these birds up, especially in one single day. But everywhere, not only in the Waterberg, but across the world, Bird diversity is all about habitat diversity, and the more habitats you cover, the more species you'll find. And if a tropic bird can find its way into the waterberg, well, then almost anything is possible. And if you come across one of these sort of impossibilities, please photograph it and please share the record with us.